Hello and welcome to Database Concepts Part 2. Database Schema. What is a database schema? A database schema is a way to logically group objects. The objects could include tables, views, and stored procedures. It's a way of grouping the objects together in a kind of like container way. So it's like you group a group of objects together and store them in one place and then give that a name. For example, for this course we're going to be working with a sample HR schema. A schema contains the objects, so the objects could include tables or views. This is quite useful in that it can help the database administrator to assign permissions to a schema for certain people, because in an organization there may be several schemas, so it makes the life of the database administrator easier to have different schema, and then you assign relevant permissions to each schema, because you may want one set of users to be restricted from other schemas. So schemas are quite useful because they group objects together. Just a quick recap: a database schema is a way to logically group objects together. The objects could include tables, views, procedures, and so on. Anything that is an object collectively grouped together and stored in one location. That's what a schema is. Entity Relationship Diagram, also known as ERD. This is a graphical representation of the requirements for a database. Before a database is set up and the schema organized, an ERD is essential. This is kind of like a graphical representation of what is required in a database. It talks about, there's a diagram of the table, the relationship that exists within the tables. This is what an ERD is used for. Extremely useful. So an ERD, or entity relationship diagram, is a graphical representation of requirements for a database. Graphical representation of requirement of a database. What is an entity? An entity, this represents a person, a place, or a thing that you want to track in a database. They are all objects. So entity represents a person, a place, or a thing that you need to track in a database. What is an attribute? An attribute describes various characteristics about an individual entity. For example, a column or field in a table is an attribute. Relationship. Relationship describes how one or more entities interact with each other. So you can have two or more tables that are related in one way or the other through the ways they interact. This is what an entity relationship diagram looks like. This is a sample ERD of the HR schema. The HR schema is a sample database schema in Oracle. This is provided by Oracle. It's just a sample schema used for educational purposes only. In this graphical representation of the ERD, it shows there are 7 tables in this schema, 7 of them. So you got departments, locations, countries, regions, employees, jobs, job history. 7 of them. It also shows the relationship between the tables. The highlights in blue are all primary keys. All tables must have a primary key. A primary key kind of like it's a unique key. It is what gives a column in the table its uniqueness. So that means no two fields can repeat in that table, hence the primary key. So the blue, for example, you can only have one employee with one employee ID. You can't have the same employee ID for two people. Yeah, so most of the ones highlighted here are they are the primary key, which specifies their uniqueness. These dotted lines and this that looks like a crow's foot, they are all illustrations to show how the tables are related to one another. Okay, this here, the employees table, acts as a bridge table. As you can see, it's a bridge between the departments table, the job history table, and the jobs table. Alright, so what I'll do, we'll talk about crow's foot, and then I'll come back to this ERD diagram in a minute. Primary key. I mentioned earlier about all tables must have a primary key. A primary key, this uniquely identifies each record in a table. The record does not repeat. An example is an employee ID. No two employees will have the same ID. Foreign key. This is a field or column in a relational database table that matches the primary key column of another table. So you can have a foreign key in one table but is related to another table's primary key. The foreign keys can be used as a cross-reference of tables. Cardinality, this counts the count of instances that are allowed or are necessary between entity relationship. In the previous diagram, showed you what a sample entity relationship diagram of the HR schema. Crow's foot notation. Crow's foot notation, these are the illustrations here. There are a way of describing the relationship between the tables. Where you see this arrow and this sign here, it means there's a one relationship. Where you see this with the crow's foot, hence the name crow's foot, that looks like a crow's foot. Crow is a bird, it's a bird. So this is what the foot looks like. So where you have this next to a table, it means the relationship is many. Where you have this, it means the relationship is one and only one relationship. Where you have this here means 0 or 1. Where you have this, it means one or many. Where you have this in the table, it means 0 or many. So these are illustrations of a crow's foot notation. They are used to describe relationship in a table. I'm going to head back now to the sample ERD, and then I can illustrate further with this crow's foot notation. So back to the ERD again. I'll just give a brief illustration of the crow's foot here. As you can see, the crow's foot is here. It means there's a one-to-many relationship between this table and that one. Where you see the dotted lines, that means there's a foreign key present in one of them, which references the primary key of another. Okay, so where you see that's a crow's foot, that's a one-to-many relationship. And where there's a dotted line, it means it's a foreign key that references another table. So you can see the relationship between these tables here, and also the relationship from this table to that one. You can see the dotted lines, it means there's a foreign key somewhere, and this is a one-to-many relationship. That means the foreign key here references the primary key there. You can see one location can belong to many departments. Again here, one department, it has several departments, one department can have several job history, hence the many symbol here. The dotted lines means there's a relationship with the primary foreign key. Again, there's a many relationship here between the jobs and the job history, hence the notation there. And then the dotted lines indicates the presence of a foreign key. Again, you can see here there's another relationship here between this table and here. You can see the many here symbol means there's a many relationship there. Going back here, It's the presence of a foreign key there. Okay, so hope this video has been helpful. I've used this to illustrate a basic ERD of the HL sample database, and also illustrated how the crow's foot notation works. Thank you for watching this video.